Today is What's Cooking Wednesday. I'm going to be making today a mock risotto, and you will find out why I call it mock risotto, and a lemony chicken dish that is one of our favorites, and a cream spinach. I'm not sure how this cream spinach is going to go because I don't have fresh spinach that I usually make it with, but we'll give it a try. So come with me to the kitchen and we'll get to cooking. Okay, so I made it in the kitchen, and I'm going to start with the mock risotto. And the reason why it's called mock risotto is because I'm using regular white rice. And normally with risotto, you constantly are stirring it as you're cooking it for like 45 minutes. You use a different type of rice as well. And who's got time to do that while you're trying to cook everything else? So I've kind of came up with this idea of how to do this without having to constantly stand at the stove and stir. I use the rice steamer that I have, but the prep part of the risotto is basically the same. You're going to need an onion, a small white onion. I use Vidalia because I just prefer the Vidalia onion in my cooking. And you're going to need a little bit of garlic, not this whole clove, maybe, just 3 cloves, ever how much garlic you'd like in it. You're going to need 2 cups of chicken broth, and I use just Swanson chicken broth, and salt and pepper, and olive oil, and butter, and a little bit of white wine. Alright, so what you're going to do first is you're going to chop your onion and your garlic. And I do use a mini food processor to do this because I don't have time to sit and chop. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and I'm going to plug in my steamer because I want it to start getting warm. And I'm going to go ahead and pour the 2 cups of chicken broth in it to also get it warmed up. So I can't turn it on yet, or I really don't want to. So, alright. And every time before I start cooking, I always sharpen my knife, which I've just done. So, and yes, I've just washed my hands as well, for those who wonder. I always wonder that. When people are cooking, I'm like, did they wash their hands? And yes, I did. Alright, I'm just going to cut the ends off, and I know this is not technically the way that you're really supposed to cut an onion, but because I'm putting it in the food processor, I really don't care. And I just make a slit like that and then take off the peeling. It's easy peasy for me. And I will just put this over to the side for my trash. I always like to get prepared and have everything ready. And I'm just going to quarter these like so that they can fit in my food processor, because as you can see, it is a very tiny food processor. Excuse the way it looks. It is used almost every day, and so it gets a lot of wear and tear. Alright, I'm going to put it over to the side. And of course, everybody knows how to use a food processor. You just cut it. Well, here, I'll put it in. And I've already got my blade in, and sometimes I have to cut these again to fit it in there because it is so small. You can use your big one if you have a big one. I have a big one, but it's just more to, clean. This one's very easy. You just pop it in the dishwasher, which, as you can see, we have, and it fell and got kind of melted, but it works. So okay, so I got my onion in there, and yes, my eyes are watering now. And now I'm gonna do my garlic, and I just made a little slit so that I can get the garlic off. I'm gonna peel it, and again, this garlic may be a little old, but it's workable. And I just like to crush it like so to get it peeled quicker, easier. And as you can see, this one does not look all that great. But I will trim off. The back side looks okay. Okay, I don't think I'm going to use that. That don't look that great. Let me try this one. I meant to buy more garlic, so I've had this for about a month, I guess. And I think I'm just going to have to be happy with it. I always cut the tips off. I don't know. And any of this, like blemishes, I don't know if y'all can see the blemish on it, but I don't like those either, so I'm going to cut that off. My eyes are watering so bad, y'all. I'm not crying, really. Alright, and then I'm just going to put it in with the onions, because it's all going to go in at the same time in your skillet. I think that's all the garlic that I want. I don't think I want any more, and I don't want any more onion either. So, right, so I'm going to take this now, and I'm going to go ahead and chop it up in the chopper. Okay, so it's chopped up as good as I want. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, it could be pasty if you want, but this is good enough for me. So now I'm going to get a skillet going, and I'm going to start heating it up. Okay, my pan is getting pretty heated. So I'm going to add a tablespoon of butter to the pan. And you don't want it too hot, because if you do, then you're going to burn your garlic, and there's nothing more gross than burnt garlic. And then I also add about a tablespoon of olive oil. This gives it flavor, but not a lot of the fat, so you don't have to use like 2 tablespoons of butter. You can just use a tablespoon of butter, a tablespoon of olive oil. And the olive oil is actually very good for you, and butter is way, way better for you than margarine. So if you're using margarine, please stop. That's just my little PSA for today. It really is not good for you. It is man-made, and butter is not. So butter is a lot healthier. In moderation, along with everything else, you can still have your butter. Alright, so now that it's melted, I'm going to go ahead and I turn my heat down, because with my iron skillet, it does keep the heat pretty low. So I don't need to use as much gas as I would if I was not using my iron skillet. Alright, and we're just going to end up sauteing this for probably a couple of minutes just to get it translucent. Okay, it's been about 2 minutes. And that looks good for me. And now what we're going to do, which is what you do in traditional risotto, is you take your rice and you're going to go ahead and put that in as well. And we're going to do probably 3 to 5 minutes, because you want this to be golden. Well, not necessarily golden, but you want the rice grains to be translucent almost. So we'll keep just stirring it, stirring it. This is what risotto is. I believe risotto means stir in Italian. I'm just kidding. I don't think that's what it means, but because that is, when you make risotto, that is what you do. You just stir, 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 stir. And again, the only difference is I'm using a different type of rice. I'm just using regular old white rice, you know, that you get $1 for 2 pounds or whatever it is in the grocery store. Whereas true risotto, you use a different type of rice. I forgot the name of it off the top of my head. It starts with an A. And I probably would mispronounce it anyway. But this is what, you know, I usually always have on hand. Barry's a rice eater. He loves rice. And this also, if you wanted to make a Mexican rice, this is how you would start it as well. Garlic and onion, and then you're going to brown your rice, or I don't want to say brown it, but, you know, kind of cook it. And then you can add tomato paste to it, or salsa, or whatever, and that will make your Mexican rice as well once you start to cook it. So back to the risotto. so we just are going to do this for a couple more minutes till it's nice and translucent. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes, and you see it's browning. And in traditional, and I'm just going to pour a little bit of wine in there. Usually I put way more than that, but I'm running low on my wine. And this does give it a nice flavor, y'all. I usually don't like wine in my cooking. I don't, especially the dry wine, but this is phenomenal with it in it. So just put as much as you like. I usually put probably about 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup maybe, just depending. But yeah, as you can see, the rice has kind of turned brown, golden brown, and traditionally you don't want to do that. But I don't mind it with this recipe because it gives it extra flavor. It's not burnt. It's just making it more of a nutty flavor, I guess you would say. So I'm not crazy about that. So, but if you're gonna make traditional risotto, you don't want it to get brown like this. So again, you just want to stir until all of that liquid is gone. All the all the wine is out of there. Alright, so now I'm just going to transfer this into my steamer. I just wanted to show you what it looks like in the steamer pot. And you know, of course, you just stir it up just to make sure it's good. And you go ahead and you put your lid on. Sorry, this is wobbly. And turn it on. And there our rice is cooking. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and start getting the sauce ready for when I make the lemon chicken sauce. And you're going to need a lemon. And you're also going to need another thing of chicken broth. You're going to need about 1/2 cup. I'm going to use 3/4 cup because we like a lot of the sauce. And plus, again, usually I use more wine than what I have, so I've got to compensate for liquid leakage. Alright, normally you would use about 1/4 cup of wine, but I don't believe I have that much. So I have 2 tablespoons of wine. And you also are going to use, I'm going to go ahead and use this whole thing of lemon. Usually it just calls for 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, but I'm going to go ahead and use just the whole lemon. So just cut your lemon in half, and I'm going to use my little juicer and just get all the juice that I can out of it, which is probably going to be quite a lot because this was a pretty big lemon. That's okay. Again, I usually use more wine than I do. Alright, so I'm just going to set this stuff to the side because I'm not quite ready to use it yet, but I always like to be ready because this is a pretty quick meal once you start getting it going. Alrighty. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to season my chicken with just salt and pepper. That is all you need for this, salt and pepper. You don't want to put garlic or anything else like that with it. Alright, so I have my salt. And I'm just going to go ahead and salt the chicken. Good. And then I'm going to pepper the chicken. And I'm going to go ahead and do the other side as well. Okay, I never use a fork. I don't know why I'm getting all fancy with y'all now. I never use a fork. I feel that hurts the chicken. I don't know. I just always have done it like that. I've used my hands. My hands are clean. And now, of course, I'm going to go wash them. Because I did touch chicken, raw chicken with my hands. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to salt and pepper it just a little. And pepper. Now I'm going to heat up my pan again like I did, but I'm using my iron skillet again, so it should still be warm from when I used it to make my rice. And again, I'm putting a tablespoon of butter in. The skillet. And a tablespoon of olive oil. And you really should put the olive oil in first because it'll keep the butter from burning, but I always forget. I've been so used to putting butter in first that I forget that I should really put the olive oil in first and then put the butter in, because it will help prevent it from scorching. So we just make sure that we have a lot. Melt out that butter. Right. Melt, 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 melt you butter, melt you. I love my iron skillet. I've had it for a few months now, and it's finally getting good seasoning in it. I made spaghetti the other day in it, and oh my gosh, that was the best spaghetti ever, because it had all the flavors of other stuff that I had been cooking. Alright, so now you're just going to take your chicken and just lay it in the pan. And I cut my chicken pretty thin. You don't want it too fat. You want it thin pieces. So either pound it thin if you don't cut it thin, but we cut our breast in half and it makes it just perfect. Alright, so you put that in there and you're just going to let it cook for 5 minutes. 5 to 6. I always like to be on the cautious side, and I usually go for 6 minutes. So I'm going to set my timer for 6 minutes so I don't forget, and we're just going to let that cook. Now I'm going to make my cream spinach. Normally when I make this cream spinach, I do it with fresh spinach, but I didn't have one. I hadn't really had time to go to the grocery store this week, so I had to improvise, and I'm using frozen spinach, so I have no idea what it's going to taste like. So let me get that stuff started. Okay, so 6 minutes is up, so now I'm flipping my chicken over, and it should be nice and brown, as it is. So this is, you know, you want it to be golden brown. Oh, that one looks nice right there. Oh, that one does too. Ooh, these all look good. So now again, I'm going to go 6 minutes on each side. And you hear it gets louder, doesn't it? So I'm going to turn down my heat a little bit, only because, again, I'm in an iron skillet and it holds heat so well that I don't want to burn my chicken. So I'm on low right now on my stove. Alright, so I'm going to go over now and make the cream spinach. Scrap the cream spinach idea. I just wasn't in the mood for all that. It's kind of heavy. So instead, I'm just going to take bacon, and I'm going to fry me a few pieces of bacon in here to get the bacon grease. I don't know if this is an old southern thing, but I can remember my mom, it was called poke salad. And poke is actually a weed out in your yard. But you can use watercress, any kind of greens, really. And you just take your bacon, fry your bacon, and you take your greens and then you fry your greens in with your bacon. So that's essentially what I'm going to do. As you can tell, I just ended up. We're going to let that sucker cook for about 2 minutes on each side. Alright, my chicken just went off, so my chicken is done. So now what I want to do with my chicken is I'm going to take it out of the skillet, put it back on a plate. I'll show you that. Okay. And then I'm putting it in a warm oven just to keep it warm. And it's browned on both sides. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to put it in a warm chicken. A warm chicken. I'm putting it in a warm chicken, y'all. I'm putting it in a warm oven so that it will stay warm. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pour your lemon and wine into the skillet. And you're just going to deglaze that nummy stuff there. Okay. And I am down on low now, again. And then you just add your chicken broth. Okay, and you're going to let that simmer down to almost half. And that is going to be our sauce that goes on top of our chicken. Okay, my bacon looks good. I'm just going to go ahead and take it off the pan. I'm putting it on some paper towels just to drain it. Okay, and that has a lot of bacon grease in it. I don't know if y'all can see it or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain off some of this bacon grease. And I've left a little bit in there because I do want it to have the flavor. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the spinach back in. And I've already seasoned it, so I'm not going to season it again. But normally when I make this, I would have ended up putting garlic in with the bacon grease to just saute it. And then put my fresh spinach in. And then here's my finished mock risotto. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put salt and pepper in it. And Parmesan cheese. So here's my salt. And then my pepper. Okay, I use the small grater. And I grate probably about 1/4 of a cup to 1/2 a cup, just depending on how much rice I have in here. It's very fluffy tonight. Okay, so let's try that. Let's stir it up and we'll see what it looks like. We'll just leave it at that. Okay, and so now my sauce is good and reduced. That's about what you want it to be. You want it to look like that. And my spinach is done, so everything is finished. Okay, so I just crumbled up my bacon into my spinach. And there we go. Alright, and let me plate it, and you can take a gander at what the finished product looks like. Okay, and so I've put the chicken on the rice, and I'm just putting the sauce over the chicken and rice. And then I'm just going to give myself a nice little spatula full of spinach. And I hope it turns out good. I really don't like to use frozen stuff. But again, I was slack and didn't go grocery shopping. So this is your finished product. Lemony chicken over mock risotto, bacon and spinach. Alright, well this was a challenge for me. I've never filmed and cooked at the same time. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Thumbs up. Share it and subscribe. Alright, thanks for watching, y'all. Bon appetit!